Hello everybody, and welcome back to the FM Technical Area, the Football Manager podcast, brought to you by me, your host, Gaffer Graemo once again. Sorry, just adjusting the light there for anyone who's watching along on YouTube. It's been 2 months since I last recorded. How are we? I did not intend for the break to be as long. I knew I'd be stacking up episodes and I'd hoped to be able to record as soon as I came home, but it's been a bumpy month of September to say the very least. So, no, look, I've got a few blog posts out. I've kind of got the Twitter updates, the Slack updates. I've been able to spend a little bit of time kind of contributing in those ways, but I apologise now for this long and unexpected delay. But in Football Manager terms, I am absolutely delighted to be back, and especially I'm delighted to be back when I have drawn level once again in my FC Basel save. I've managed to catch up on the couple of weeks that I was away, because when it comes to that Swiss season, you're starting the league at the end of July. You know, there's a lot of football to be played. There's a lot that needs to be done, and as such, you are, you know, really behind it if you miss 2 weeks like I did. So I'm absolutely delighted to be back. And not only am I back now, and not only am I back talking to you, but I'm also back talking to you in Football Manager 25, as it's called. There's no 2025 I've seen in any of the promotional pieces yet, but FM25 is a thing. And happy or not, there's a lot that has left the community wanting. There's a lot that left anybody interested, for any fans of the game. Is there pressure on SI? I think there is. We've got the Unity engine. We've got no international football. You know, they've given, they've taken away. So I think like that, patience is going to be a virtue when it comes to actually getting ourselves sorted and getting ourselves ready to see what it is that's going to come from FM25. Obviously, a lot of speculation, a lot of leaks, and a lot of, screenshots are slowly making their way into the FM community, making their way into the socials. We've got the roadmap there, of course. And I suppose with some of them leaks, it's had me kind of second guessing, had me thinking whether or not I should continue with these philosophy episodes. You know, especially today you're talking about like Sir Alex Ferguson, and it's like adapt to survive or adapt to thrive, really, with Sir Alex Ferguson. You know, we do the tactical recreations. We've tried them on Twitter. I've kind of made them available, and I've got to update the list there now. I'm well aware of, some of the tactics we've put together. But I suppose you're kind of thinking now, we've seen the leaks of the new roles, that tactics will be divided to in possession and out possession, something that's been in the game before a long time ago, something that's in the game still, but the skin, the way it presents itself has changed. So I hope that, some of the points we make today, some of the philosophy, thoughts of whatever, the formation style, all of these things are going to be relevant, I suppose, going forward in Football Manager 2025 or 25. That it's not just something that can be done there now in the next month or month to 2 months while we wait for the full release of FM25. So look, we have to adapt. I think that's one of the big things that's going to happen to us now. Interface is changing. Tactics engine, tactics creator is going to be changing. I think the match engine is definitely changing. There's a lot of changing that needs to be done. There's a lot of adaptation that needs to be done. Taking the ideas that we've learned from Football Manager 24 and all the way back close to FMO5. We've kind of, we've even got to really consider what lessons we've learned ourselves along this Football Manager journey that we've taken, and now adapt them to FM25, this new era and beyond. And I suppose, much it pains me to say as a Liverpool fan, the master of adaptations for Alex Ferguson, 26 years in the job at Manchester United, a managerial career that lasted a long, long time before even beginning at Manchester United. So someone who's adapted, rose to the top, and went out on the top in the end. What lessons can we learn from him in terms of his philosophy, tactically speaking, his philosophy, managerial style speaking, and how can we kind of bring that into FM25? That's really the question, the topic, the conversation that we want to get into here today. Now, you think of, what is involved with the Sir Alex Ferguson challenge. And I've got the image here from, it'll appear to the side appear here on the screen of, FM Inside, what they kind of talk about, save ideas for Football Manager 25. There obviously is the Sir Alex Ferguson challenge. The idea that you take over second from bottom in the middle of November, and you've got to, rise to the top, win league titles, win European trophies in the way that Sir Alex Ferguson did. You've kind of got this, great era of manager, someone we can all aspire to replicate in our saves. And I know many people will go on those 20, 30-year saves, will go quite deep in Football Manager. But for anyone who kind of goes for those shallow, short saves to 5 years, 10 years, what Sir Alex Ferguson could achieve in that period of time with some of the clubs he's managed beforehand, I'm not talking about Manchester, we're talking Aberdeen and before, maybe they can be sources of inspiration to you as well for your own kind of challenge going into FM25. We think of Sir Alex Ferguson, he's the last manager to defeat Real Madrid in the European final with Aberdeen back in 1983, the Cup Winners' Cup. This legacy he set himself, this legacy that, many of us do try and see and say, right, I want to topple these great giants. Sir Alex Ferguson managed to do it in real life. You think of the dire straits that Manchester United were in when he took control on November the 6th, 1986. You think of, this was a club that had a great era under Sir Matt Busby, and in the time after Sir Matt Busby had seen relegation and had really, never been a club that asserted itself in the same place in the way that Busby did, and a lot of change, a lot of difficulties. Some good players passed through Manchester United in that time as well. So to think that the 38 trophies he won in 26 years, from taking Manchester United like that, second from bottom in the league, and having a legacy like that, it's absolutely incredible. And when we want to finish up FM25 and go into FM26 even, we want to look back on our saves and see, I suppose, trophy-laden campaigns, success stories that we could, in this virtual world, I suppose, go to the retirement home and be telling everybody else that's sitting around on a couch or a chair that's willing to listen about the time you toppled Real Madrid and stopped them from winning 5 in a row in the European Cup, or you stopped Manchester City from winning 10 Premier League titles in a row, whatever it is. You want that to be you. So look, what we're going to do is we're going to go through 3 eras of Sir Alex Ferguson in today's podcast. I'm going to focus on that Aberdeen side because, like that, it's the last side to beat Real Madrid in a European final. We're then going to go and talk about Manchester United in the 1990s. For any fan of non-Manchester United who grew up in the 1990s, I'm sure that's an era that many of us do try and forget ever happened. I can't, forget those feeling of going to school every year knowing that Manchester United were going to win the league and Liverpool were definitely not going to win the league. So that was tough there as well. So we're going to talk about Manchester United in the 1990s, obviously culminating on that side that won the treble in 99. And then I want to talk about United of the 2000s and the 2010s, that late era Ferguson, the team that went out on the top by winning that title in Sir Alex Ferguson's final year. So look, without further ado, let's kind of get into it. Again, the tactics you see created here are just my interpretations of Sir Alex Ferguson's, shapes and styles that he used. Obviously, look, you can interpret that yourself. You can make subtle changes and tweaks yourself. And if you do, please tell me. Let me know how you're getting on with those. But if you are keeping with the styles that are there, just know like this is my interpretation of those 3 eras. So we're going to start off with with Aberdeen. These are all available to download as well from the Technical Areas website. So again, if you are interested, follow the links down below and, maybe go and try these for yourself. So we think of the Aberdeen side of Sir Alex Ferguson, a side that, reaches the top by winning that European Cup Winners' Cup in 1983. This was a team that was disciplined. This was a team that was hard-working. And this was a team that played in a 4-4-2 shape. This was a team that prioritised defensive solidity and was aggressive then in how it pressed and harassed the opposition. So, like, while we might be saying like that pressing is a modern interpretation of, man on, get stuck in, all of these things, really and truly, what we've kind of gotten here is Sir Alex Ferguson, setting a set of principles out that really followed him through his whole managerial career. Teams that were hard to beat, teams that were really, tough for opposition to try and play against, and teams that knew how to win. Obviously, this 4-4-2 was a very standard British formation, a very standard football formation at this time. And you'd be hard pressed to find many teams across Europe, many teams across Britain that played in a different style. This 4-4-2, very much atypical of what went on at this time. But like that, and like it is in the modern game, 4-4-2 is a very, very effective shape. When we talk about FM25 in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to really be talking about why I think 4-4-2 might be the way to go and the tactics greater. But that's a story for another day. Getting back on track here, it's a team in Sir Alex Ferguson that shocked Europe. This Aberdeen side shocked Europe. It won this Cup Winners' Cup. It wins 2-1 with this disciplined, hard-working system that really, really, really wanted to get out and make life difficult for every opponent they played. So, how would it look in a football manager? What are the demands? What are the considerations that we need to know if we want to be, setting up a team in an era like Sir Alex Ferguson, a team that I suppose you could say, you know, made life extremely difficult and makes life extremely difficult for the opposition. And in Football Manager, unfortunately, the match engine does not reward us for playing defensive football. So what you've kind of got to do here is you've kind of come up with a team that, although it's hard pressing, although it's hard working, you've got to come up with a team here that is created in your own style. So I'm going to minimize myself up here into the corner as I get the tactics engine loaded up down here. And we'll get recording here now and we'll go through the steps it is to create this Sir Alex Ferguson system and how I'm going to go about doing it. I'm going to create my own style because like that, I want to make sure that this team, although it's Gagan pressing, you could say with the intense pressing, there's also defensive solidity there. These are considerations that I just want to feel I can bring together better if I go about doing this in my own style. So I'm going to set it up in this 4-4-2. And like that now, we've kind of got this base, balanced shape here with not an awful lot going on. Now, it's time for us to make the tweaks to make this look and feel like a Sir Alex Ferguson Aberdeen style team. So first of all, we're going to go for sweeper keeper support. Football rules at this time were a little bit different. Goalkeepers were, able to pick up the back pass and so on. But like that, having the ability to have a player here who'd be, strong on the offside trap, strong in, just like that, commanding the area. And of course, like that, we want to say good with our feet, good with distribution. The sweeper keeper is always, for me anyway, the go-to point here of that team of the 1983 Cup Winning Cup final. We want two fullbacks either side on support. Really what here is these are defensively solid players with the ability to overlap and support the attack when the opportunities are there. Two centre backs are central defenders on defend. Again, very vanilla here, but really, like these guys, all we need them to do is win aerial duels, stay compact, just do what central defenders do best. Let's win the ball back, stop the opposition striker from scoring, and laying the ball off to more technical players. Our two central midfielders then here, we're going to go with a ball-winning midfielder on one side, and this ball-winning midfielder is on defend, and a box-to-box midfielder on the other side, which of course is just in support. With these two roles, again, it combines what would have really been typically seen at this time. An aggressive player who wins the ball back, high energy, high pressing. And then you've got the energy beside the player who, support the attack, support the defence, be up and down the pitch. Of course, the side here doesn't really matter if you want to go to ball winning midfield on the left-hand side to look. Again, these things are always open to interpretation. They're open to rotation here. But really like that, you've got one guy who's focusing on breaking a play, the other supports the attack, and then will track back. Ideal, balanced, perfect centre midfield here. That's adding to this defensive solidity and adding to this, aggression here that we want to bring into this team. Either side then, we're actually going to go for two wide midfielders on support. We want this compact style. We want this player here like that, perform defensive and attacking duties on the flank. Again, it's not putting an awful lot of pressure on this player to be explosive in attack, not putting a lot of emphasis on this player here to be, the Ryan Giggs style, Cristiano Ronaldo, so wide forwards, wingers that we see later on in the Sir Alex Ferguson era. But again, you've got two tireless, energetic players here. Help the fullbacks, get forward, put crosses into the box. Just really do what you want your wide midfielders to do. In essence, you're kind of talking about like that, this box-to-box style player. on the wings, full of energy, full of enthusiasm, supporting the attack, supporting the defence here. And then up front, look, what way could you do this other than this? Of course, target forward on support and advance forward on attack. Target man holding play up, being the one who, you want to be targeting with these crosses. The player who wins this ball is really, that, again, strong and physical. And then the advance forward, the player who's looking to try to get in behind the defensive line. The typical, I suppose, big man, little man style that you would have seen. This here in terms of formation, this here in terms of the positions, the roles, would really be what you would have seen in that 1983 final. Compact, aggressive, hard working, but like that, bringing these older kind of style elements into football, but very effective style elements as well of, pressing, high energy, and like that direct passing options further down the pitch. In terms of the team instructions, then like this, it's a balanced mentality here, like that. It's aggressive, but it like brings the best of the aggression in attack with the aggression in defense. You want to keep things level here. We're going to go for a little bit of a fairly narrow style attacking with here because we haven't got out and out wingers. We haven't got wing backs like that. We just want the team to be playing slightly narrower. We want the team like that then to focus on playing crosses into the box. So like that, hitting early crosses and, being more direct in our transitions. That's really kind of what you're looking to be doing here. Now, here's the thing. If you go for this focus play down left or right, you can't pick both. Can't Because really and truly, that's not really going to bring out the best of what you want to do here. We're not going to play out offense. We're not going to focus play through the middle because like that, a lot of our energy and enthusiasm needs to come from the wider areas. Overlapping isn't going to work here either because like that, our fullbacks will naturally do it. In terms of passing directness, we want to be a little bit more direct. We want to be able to hit early crosses. In terms of the final third, what type of cross you want to put in, you've got a target man there. So like that, you're putting in these floated balls, you're putting in these kind of whipped crosses. Target man is ideal there, and so is the advance forward. So you don't really mind having this kind of combination going in. In terms of the transitions like that, we do want to be direct. We do want to be aggressive. So you want to counter press and you want to counter attack. Again, bringing these elements of Sir Alex Ferguson into play of like that, being aggressive in winning the ball back, and our player roles certainly suit this as well. We want to distribute to the wings, to the flanks, because like that, the flanks are where we want this. That's where the strength of our technical players is going to be in these wide areas. So our fullbacks and our wide midfielders. That's what we're going to be looking for here with both of these type of players. And also in transition like that, you could say distribute to target man either if things were getting a little bit more aggressive. But look, you can kind of again focus on distributing to positions. We can kind of pick, particular areas here, but really and truly, if you want to distribute position, the target man to be going direct, but really and truly distributing to the flanks. Look, it's just the simplest way to bring this style to life. And of course, the fact that we can make these tweaks shows in-game adaptations. And that's one thing that we always need to be considering is, okay, look, distributing to the flanks isn't working. We're losing a lot of ball out wide. We'll just drop it and distribute to the fullbacks and build through them. Or we'll go direct to the target man and we'll play it through there. So either way, you've got options and opportunities there to make adaptations. But to begin this off completely, just distributing to flanks, that's really kind of what all you want and all you really want to have there. Out of possession then like that, a standard defensive line, again, we're not going to be too aggressive with that, but we want to kind of make sure that we stay compact. So that when we stay compact like that, you can bring it to a low block, or you can go with the mid block, which again, possibly is the best one here. We want to really kind of press aggressively in this middle third of the pitch. So with that, the mid block is ideal. Let the opposition have the ball deep. It's here. These areas we want to create turnovers. These areas are really where we want. Trigger and press in terms of more often or not. Again, it's up to you. It depends as well on the technical ability of your players. Preventing short goalkeeper distribution, we're not interested in. Because like that, we really want to win the ball back here. We're not going to be worrying about stopping crosses. We're not going to worry about pressing traps inside or outside. Again, defensive line, we're not really too worried. We want this standard line. Like stepping up more like that means, there's room in behind. Could we be hit on the lot of direct balls in the back? Absolutely. And the other thing you've got to remember, as it says there, is, Compact the midfield space ahead of them, give the opposition less room. It can be susceptible to having balls. If you've got pacey defenders, absolutely go like this. But if you haven't got pacey defenders, you might need like that, and even to drop off more, to try and keep things standard, and then adjust and adapt depending on the opposition that you're playing. Because one of the things that Sir Alex Ferguson was very strong at doing was being able to adapt to the opposition that he played against. And we'll talk about that in the final section, in the conclusion, trying to wrap up the key philosophical principles, a thread that will line up with all these. But really and truly, you want this team to just kind of be adaptable here. And we've done that here. We've got basic team instructions here. And when we look at the player roles, again, there's not an awful lot of change going on here. We go into the player instructions that we want to add. We want our fullbacks to stay wide. We want them to cross whenever is possible, cross more often. So on both sides, that's something we want to do, because crossing is going to be our key way of getting into the final third here. Excuse me. Then when it comes to our wide midfielders, we want these players like that to track back. We want these players to, be up and down these wings. And we want them as well to get further forward when in possession. So trigger and press, that's fine. Yep, mark player, mark position. Again, these can be things that can be adapted as you are playing the game. In terms of crossing more often, again, the wide midfielders, we don't necessarily need them to do that all the time. We just want to make sure that when we have the ball, they do get further forward. Because like that, we do need them making these, constant runs up and down that touchline. These constant, being a constant option out there. And with the fullback in support, the fullback will be the main crossing player into the box here. But again, a player who can tuck in nicely here. Finally, then, as well, in terms of our strikers, our target man like that is going to hold the ball up, and he is going to dribble less. And the advance forward like that, we want it to move into channels. We want him like that just to be able to make sure that he gets in behind. So, in terms of the Aberdeen style with Sir Alex Ferguson, this, I feel, is the best starting point for this. And the reason, again, it's a starting point is there's enough room to be adaptable. There's enough room to make subtle changes depending on the opposition you're playing against. Because if the opposition like that play with pacey strikers, you're not going to want your defensive line like that to step up more. You might need them to drop off more in order to cut off the risks. In terms of where the pressing traps are, if these are players you feel you can win the ball on the inside, then force them inside, trap them on the inside. But just make the changes going into each match that you feel will work best in that situation. And like we said there in terms of the distribution as well, in the transition phase, don't be afraid to make changes to go to the flanks, to go to the fullbacks, or go to the target man. You've got the ability here to make changes depending on what is working in a game scenario. And as a manager, we need to be that. We need to be proactive and we need to be active. Because at the end of the day, this style here will mirror the aggressive style, the high energy approach that Sir Alex Ferguson instilled in that Aberdeen team. A team that was defensively organised, quick on counter-attacks and pressing and energetic. And all you need to do now is just make this change of where the pressing will take place and where the focus of that counter-attack is going to be. That's really and truly what you need to do to make that Aberdeen style work and work best for you. But of course, look, Aberdeen was just one chapter of Sir Alex Ferguson's story. There's plenty more that we need to talk about. And of course, where else do we start other than that era of the 1990s? Manchester United just took over English football and began an era that had not been seen since. Although, I suppose Pep Guardiola may argue with that one. The 1990s for many are a footballing era which can divide you depending on which way you fall on the pro or anti-Manchester United side. Growing up with one side of my family being Manchester United fans was hard. Growing up, going to school now where everyone was a Manchester United fan was possibly that little bit more difficult as well. Especially when you're going in that brand new Liverpool jersey and that famous line that we said for so long, this is going to be our year. But unfortunately, Sir Alex Ferguson, he was the man who stopped all of my childhood dreams from coming true. Sir Alex Ferguson, a man who evolved his style from Aberdeen, changed Manchester United to an era which many still look back to now these days, 11 years on since he's left, and say and really appreciate what it was that he was able to do. You see, what happened with Sir Alex Ferguson was when he came to Manchester United, he took over a club that took him, what, 7 years, 6 years, 7 years before he finally wins that league title. He finally was able to create a style and a culture which really, like that, shows his winning mindset, that ability to win at any cost and in any way that was needed. A Manchester United side that took on the Aberdeen nature of being defensively organised and high aggression in terms of their pressing and counter attacks, and now add an attacking and winning mindset to this. Something which, as we all know, when we finally put together our winning sides in Football Manager, we feel that we are unstoppable. What happened with the Manchester United style of the 1990s was we saw this class of 92s group of players come in and slowly begin to change just how Manchester United's attacking play worked. The emphasis on wide midfielders began to change. Suddenly, with Beckham and Giggs on either flank, had Manchester United got a wide playmaker and a winger. These are some of the ways in which this Manchester United style changed as time went on. Some of the ways in which Manchester United truly became a winning side because of the ability of the players they had here, and this ability once again to become a new beast with these players that were the envy of clubs all across the world. This team kept the direct, quick and aggressive nature of Sir Alex Ferguson's style of football. But of course, with these technically gifted players, Manchester United were really and truly a dominant force in British English football. No side that played in the 1990s, so matches up to that team, that squad of players from the 98-99 season, the team that won the treble, the Premier League, the FA Cup, and of course, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's famous winner in the 99 Champions League final. Ferguson stuck with this trusted 4-4-2 approach, but like that, taking what he'd done at Aberdeen, we're going to bring now an attacking mindset just to what it was that Sir Alex Ferguson was able to do. So as I minimise myself up here to the corner now and begin the tactics creator, once again I'm going to create my own tactical style, and we're going to again begin with the 4-4-2, because of course this is where everything happens. The key principles we want to bring into this shape is a high tempo and attacking style of play. Of course, at the back you've got the famous Peter Schmeichel, a sweeper keeper in all of his attributes, all of his traits. A keeper whose distribution, command of his area were key to this counter-attacking style that Manchester United had perfected. Either side then, Manchester United had two fullbacks once again on support. Two players who bombed forward in possession, but also tracked back to cover space on the flanks. Beloved Dennis Aaron, one of my nanny's favourite players there at left back. Just a phenomenal player and really understated at this time. Centre backs then, once again, two solid and commanding central defenders on defend. Players who win aerial duels, kept the line tight, so it was again, we're keeping the essence of the Aberdeen side, this solid foundation here. Now going forward, this is where things will change. On one side, you've got Roy Keane, a deep line playmaker on defend, and on the other, a player who anchors the midfield, and beside him then the box-to-box midfielder in Paul Scholes. But again, two energetic players. Scholes could pull the passes and perfectly acceptable himself as a deep line playmaker on defend, pulling strings, a technically gifted player like many have never seen before. And Keane, of course, full of that energy, full of that enthusiasm. Nothing sums it up better than that headed winner. The goal that put them into the final against Juventus, despite the fact Keane had a yellow card that was ruling him out of the final. So again, that lung bursting run in here. So again, I suppose, would you say Keane is, and Scholes, you have a dynamic midfield here. And once again, that would then give you the option, if you're trying to mimic this, of having two players in here swapping positions, but keeping the roles set. So if one player swaps, it becomes the deep line playmaker. As many people know that argument then, one sits and one goes. Keane and Scholes are absolutely dynamic in this way for Manchester United. Now, what you've got then either side is two players here that you can really, experiment with and have a little bit of fun with. David Beckham, some might say, was a wide midfielder, given the nature of Beckham's style of play. You know, Beckham, becoming that centre midfielder later on in his career. You've got a guy here who can be sitting out here as a wide midfielder. You've got a guy again who can be out as a winger, or like that as a wide playmaker here. The only thing is, of course, with the wide playmaker, this is, as the team's primary source of creativity. With a deep line playmaker, that's really not going to work. So for this case, I'm actually going to have Beckham as the wide midfielder on support. But then on the other side where Ryan Giggs is, we're going to have, again, a winger on support. So you've got Giggs' energy up and down the left-hand side. The winger, like it says here, aims to beat his man on the outside, technically proficient, hugs the touchline, going forward, ready to surge into space and attack the byline. The wide midfielder on the other side performs defensive and attacking duties on the flank, lacks the explosive pace here. Now, the exciting dribbling skills, Beckham again was technically proficient in that regard. But again, this guy is a player who can certainly dictate play. And when we goes to team instructions, we'll be able to make those little changes in there as well. Up front, though, is where we see the change even more happen. Although you've got the advanced forward, you've also now got a complete forward up here as well. Manchester United had these perfect options. And if you bring Sheringham or Dwight Ole on, of course, one of these can become a poacher. The target forward there. This Manchester United side had 4 fantastic attacking options, each of them bringing their own unique skill set to the game. And of course, Cole and York, that famous front two, players with perfect chemistry. York, so proficient at dropping and linking up play. Cole running on to beat the last defender. Really and truly, this Manchester United side really just typified the balance in perfection that this team was able to have. Of course, then, it's not just wanting to set the players up in this way. We then have to bring this attacking and aggressive style to Manchester United. So, of course, the mentality is going to be attacking. This team really wants to get at you and really wants to play well. You've got the winger there now, so we can now go wide, even fairly wide, whichever, again, you are most comfortable feeling. I'm actually going to go all out and playing wide. This team, we want to exploit the flanks. Again, we've got the players there who are ideal to do this. So again, if you want to focus play on one particular side, absolutely feel free to do so. Focusing on both sides, it's again, it's asking a lot of a team to pick 2 sides and play down. So in one match, if you want to focus on Giggs' width or you want to focus on Beckham's creativity, absolutely, you've got the opportunity to do both in here. We want to focus on quick passing, so we're going to up the tempo to slightly higher here as well. And then like that, we want to whip crosses into the box. That's really the way we want to play here. So again, we're bringing in a nature that is adaptable like that by knowing we want to focus, play down a particular side. If we want to hit early crosses into the box, you brought your Sheringham on there, your target forward, absolutely. You've kind of got a standard directness in terms of the passing. So then again, there's the ability there of players like Giggs and to get onto the end of long passes. You've got the options then of short passing in the middle. Players will just default to what it is they're naturally going to be doing with the roles we've picked, and with the attacking mentality will be a little bit more aggressive in their passing here. Of course, Ferguson's then defensive style stayed true, a counter-pressing, counter-attacking team in the modern sense. Goalkeeper would distribute quickly to try and catch the opposition, really build back from the back quickly. This distribution would be to the fullbacks or the wide midfielders. So just like with Aberdeen, you've got the option here to adjust and play. I'm going to start off with the fullbacks, but of course, if you want to go to be a bit more direct and play just to the flanks themselves, feel free to absolutely do so. Either of these will really sum up what Ferguson was trying to do. And again, you've got the adaptation there, the ability in-game to manage how it is that you play. So we're going to stick with the fullbacks and building up through these because we want to launch rapid counterattacks through these 2 players. Then in terms of out of possession, what we want to do, we're actually going to be pressing much higher up the pitch. We're going to go for a high press, and like that, we're going to prevent short goalkeeper distribution. And then we want to maintain a high defensive line just in order to keep that squeeze on to really compress the space. In terms of the defensive line, stepping up more, you've already got the high line, so it would be a risk if you want to do it. But if you've got speed in your defence and you're comfortable with doing that, absolutely. Or if you've got an absolute eccentric goalkeeper who's very good at sweeping, perhaps then you feel comfortable doing it again. In terms of where the pressing traps are, that depends game on game. And that's something that really has to be reiterated here. Where is your pressing trap going to be? Is it if this team is technically proficient out wide, you're kind of worried about their aerial presence, force them inside. Or again, if they're a team that you know the forwards are not particularly dominant in the air and your centre back should have no issue, trap them on the outside. Whatever works for you, make sure you make that adaptation going into the game. Because again, that Manchester United team in 1999 excelled with blistering counter-attacks. A team that was quick and direct in transitions, had a fierce work rate off the ball, and like that in this 4-4-2 shape, it really kind of, I feel, captures the attacking essence of what was done here. But of course, one of the things that Sir Alex Ferguson done so well was like that, almost be a chameleon to the extent that he could adjust and adapt to the opposition and match situations so well and so effectively that really and truly what you've got to do here is be mindful of who you're playing and where it is their strengths are and try and stop those with that off the ball fierce work rate that this Manchester United had. Now, the final era of Sir Alex Ferguson that we want to get into, I suppose, if you're me, it finally came at a time where, Sir Alex Ferguson had said he was retiring before, and we believed him. And then he undone it. So when he finally announced that the 2012-2013 season would be his last after being pipped in 2011-2012 by Aguero's goal in the last minute by Manchester City, for many it brought an awful lot of relief. But once again, it showed that in the final days of Manchester United, in the final days of the Sir Alex Ferguson era of football management, Sir Alex once again shows how just, capable and competent a coach he is and how he has adapted and learned with the times. The two Champions League finals of 2009 and 2011, where he came head to head with Pep Guardiola's Barcelona. He said it himself, Sir Alex. He got it wrong in 2009 and wanted to crack them again in 2011. But of course, the brilliance of Lionel Messi, Pep Guardiola's incredible ability to capture an essence of total football and bring it to life in that Barcelona side for a new era. Even Sir Alex Ferguson, as he approached the end of his managerial career with all that experience and all that wiliness, couldn't stop. He still had this winning mentality and this drive to finish and make sure he went out on the top. And unfortunately for Liverpool fans, knocked us off our perch. League title wise, of course, numbers there. The 4-2-3-1, the late era Manchester United style. This kind of shows how Sir Alex saw the modern game at the time. One of the more interesting things was, given Rooney's high goal scoring season as at number 9 the season before, for this final season in 2012-2013, Rooney drops back into being the number 10. In a 4-2-3-1, we'd see this as the attacking midfielder. But in 1999, when they won the Champions League, Dwight Yorke, we said, was a link-up striker, a striker who dropped back and moved in. So in some ways, we could see some essence of the 4-4-2 of Sir Alex Ferguson's style still lingered, still existed. This time with Rooney playing as a 10 in a 4-2-3-1, if we want to put labels on it. But like that, almost being a creative forward, a creative attacker. A goal scorer who could also, like that, pick a pass and be the hub of this team. Another evolution we see in this side is like that after the signing of Rio Ferdinand in the mid-2000s. We see Sir Alex now signed a technically gifted centre-back, a defender who isn't just a central defender on defend, but could be a ball-playing defender. Someone comfortable with the ball at his feet, is quick, and doesn't almost have a physical presence in the way his partner Nemanja Vidic had. So again, an evolution that could be seen through the noughties and into the 2010s, how Alex Ferguson had evolved this Manchester United side over his managerial career. This team was more controlled than ever. A team that brought new ideas and new elements to it in a way which we had not seen before. We saw Manchester United bring a an exciting young Portuguese midfielder, Cristiano Ronaldo, to the side. Replacing David Beckham in 2003, Ronaldo grew into a world superstar, a goal scorer from out wide, which again grew and evolved Ferguson's style over his managerial career. Of course, then the evolution of the side continued up until this final season, with Robin van Persie, one of the league's most proficient goal scorers, making the move north from Arsenal, highlighting the pragmatism and the pragmatic approach that Ferguson had to winning, knowing and when and how to make the changes that he needed to make. So as we go into our final tactic creation here, as we're going to make our own style, of course we're going to begin with the 4-2-3-1 DM AM wide, as it is on the creative formation screen here, and of course we're creating our own tactical style. Once again, hoping to grab the essence of what Ferguson's team had. This pragmatic side was really and truly the culmination of 26 years of management. A team that showed while he adapted to the modern game, he still relied on experienced players like Robin van Persie and a solid foundation at the back to be the key principles of this side. David De Gea in goal, of course, was a sweeper keeper. Not the technically proficient goalkeeper of the modern era as the game evolved, but at this time, De Gea had all the necessary skill set to be an effective player in this position and command his box. The fullbacks on either side continued to be fullbacks on support, players who would attack but didn't bomb forward as they once did in his earlier sides. Two central defenders. Here again, we can finally bring in a ball-playing defender. And again, like this with Rio Ferdinand and Man Utd, we're bringing in a side here that had this ball-playing element. But of course, Ferdinand was a canny operator, and playing him as a central defender on the fin, again, would have suited the player here. For this, for argument's sake, to show the evolution here, we're going to bring a ball-playing defender in here. In front, we have two defensive midfielders, a deep-lying playmaker on support, and a ball-winning midfielder on defend. Now again, doesn't matter which side you kind of bring these in here, but of course there is the ability to adjust depending on the players you have available yourself. But really what you have here is a player who sat deep and controlled the game like Michael Carrick, and whoever his defensive partner, midfielder partner had to be, a player like that whose primary objective, whose primary role was just to disrupt the opposition attack. Either side now, we have an inside forward on support from one wing, and we have a winger on attack on the opposite wing. The winger provides width, the inside forward to cut in, create and score. Again, depends on the players you have. I put the winger and attack on the right. You can put the winger attack on the left, and the inside forward. Here, like I said, we're trying to take Alex Ferguson style, but of course, make the adaptations depending on the nature and the build-up of your squad. But for argument's sake here, because it seems to be the typical thing, the inside forward support from the left and the wide winger on attack on the right. In the middle here, we have a central attacking midfielder. The essential attack midfielder here is going to be our advanced playmaker on support. Rooney's role as a creator, Rooney's role as a goal threat here, and in front of him, of course, is a complete forward. Because like that, at this era of Manchester United's final season as Sir Alex Ferguson, Robin van Persie, the forward, could do everything. He can lead the line, he could drop deep and link play up, and of course, we all know him to be that clinical finisher in the box. Now, the attacking nature of the 1999 treble winning side is gone, but the positive mentality is still there. This was a team that still believed in itself, that still had the technical and tactical proficiencies to undo any team. The team like that played with a standard width. They were fairly wide, who wanted to work the ball into the box. You haven't got the big physical presence up top, so you're going to be more patient in build-up. And of course, this was a team that could play out of the defence. So again, we have a team here that, could have all of the, the modern hallmarks of building up from the back and working the ball into the box, not being overly wide, just being fairly wide in attack. So there's a bit of space inside and outside for players to play. Pressing and counter-attacking. Once again, key philosophical traits of Sir Alex Ferguson all the way up through his managerial career. But this team will now distribute quickly to fullbacks. The team would build up through the fullbacks. They were the prime ways of moving out of the back line. We finally then move into the out of possession instructions. This was a team that would be in a mid-block defensive line, standard line of engagement, preventing short goalkeeping distribution. All of these three hallmarks, just what it was, what it needed to be a successful Sir Alex Ferguson style team. Because at the end of the day, this was a team that could do everything. It had evolved like that from Aberdeen's defensive solidity. We now have an attacking threat from 99, and now we have a more composed and management style of football here in these final days of Sir Alex Ferguson's reign. Now, the fullbacks like that wouldn't be players we want bombing up constantly. These would be players like that who would support the attack cautiously, and we want to maintain the defensive stability. So, like that, we try and maybe potentially ask them to hold position. Keep an eye at the back line, support how and when is needed. Now, of course, if you're playing a game and you're chasing the game, you want a little bit more from these players. Again, don't be afraid to just, ask them to, get further forward then. We're here, we want to keep the defensive line. We want to keep things steady and stable at the back, so we're going to have them hold position. They're going to be their primary ways of playing out of back, so we're going to build through these players like that. Then here, we're going to be able to give them like that, a little bit more variety here. Our wide players, our wingers going to stay wide, and our wingers going to whip crosses into the box. So, in terms of the instructions, what do we need to add here? We actually don't really need to add anything else in, because this, again, it just is the essence of what we do need from this player on this side. The inside forward is going to be cutting in and looking for goal scoring opportunities. So, once again, there's nothing here that we need to do. If you want to add shoot more often, feel free. If you've got another Cristiano Ronaldo style player you want out here, again, add the shoot more often if you want this player to be a real attacking threat here. Your striker, Van Persie's going to drop deep, link up play, be the focal point for attacks. And then with Rooney in this place here, we could actually, like that, to shoot more often isn't going to be there. But like that, we could have him round position, we can have him move into channels, whichever it is you want, whatever way you want to feel, you can add into this player. Again, it's absolutely no issue. Because again, these roles will really just, Football Manager is always kind of taking the style at the time and try to bring it into the game. And what you have with these roles is that in abundance. And of course, like that, these can always be adjusted and tweaked in whichever way you have. And don't be afraid to look at your player traits. Someone like Wayne Rooney could fancy long shots. If as a player trait, you could have a player who can play as a 10 who fancies long shots. So again, this might be something that he mightn't shoot more often, but the trait he might be a little bit more open to defying your team instruction, because at the end of the day, players will do it in game. The final season of Manchester United relied on more controlled style of play. Van Persie's brilliance was where it relied upon, because as far as Ferguson was concerned, the rest of the team had it, and losing out the league before on goal difference, signing Van Persie, he saw was the solution here. It also made use of the brilliant creativity that Wayne Rooney had, and like that, this creativity in behind the Van Persie, an out-and-out goal scorer, meant that this team suddenly had everything it needed to win the league, and win the league it did. The 4-2-3-1 you see here, I feel, reflects this tactical evolution of Ferguson from 1999 and even from 1983 and 86 on. Because this team again shows that he has adapted to the modern demands of playing in football. So look, that wraps up our recreation section there of Sir Alex Ferguson's iconic teams. It's gone from disciplined 4-4-2 at Aberdeen. It went to the attacking prowess of 99, and finally the efficient 4-2-3-1 title winning side. Now, don't forget to let me know how you get on. Try them yourselves. Let me know what tweaks, what changes you've made. And of course, like that, experiment. Don't be afraid to try and make those changes, not just accept what I has as gospel, because just like you, I can make mistakes, just like you. My interpretation might just have some elements that you wouldn't necessarily agree with, which of course, we're always open to discussion here and conversation about how we can make these things work. What we've seen over the last section of this podcast and what we've seen here is, some of the key philosophical principles shining through in each of these tactical evolutions. These Manchester United teams, these Aberdeen sides, rhythmic possession, taking initiative were always kind of key elements and key principles of what was being set out to be achieved here. Teams that would attack with pace, with power, with penetration and unpredictability, Sir Alex Ferguson always felt would be the teams that had the most success. Players who would receive possession, think, look around them, and play it forward. Players who could break lines, players who could find space. All of these things contributed and combined really and truly would win and win leagues and win trophies when everybody could play to their own strengths. And of course, the thing is, throughout 26 years of managing at Manchester United and the years previously, Sir Alex Ferguson managed different players. He played against different systems. So one of the things he did was he used different players then as a result. He used and evolved and developed different systems because this flexibility, this variation of the style of play tied into that key principle of unpredictability. And by being unpredictable, what we have here is a team that can just win, a team that can find ways of getting goals, of asking questions of the opposition, which is something that we all set out to do when we go into every game of Football Manager we play, every match day, and every save that we take on. Teams in defensive situations, Sir Alex Ferguson kept those key principles all the way through of retain, regain, and counter. Teams that could be physical, teams that knew on a certain match day we're going to press a certain player, we're going to press a particular area of the pitch, and that's why I've left those pressing triggers kind of blank when creating these tactics. It's because the thing is, game by game, where the pressing happened changed and evolved. Some games like that, Sir Alex Ferguson deepened the line of possession, deepened the line of engagement, played a little bit deeper, and tried to hit the space. Other times like that, as we see towards the end, this is a high pressing team with a high line. So again, we're finding ways in which this team has evolved as time has gone on. Sir Alex Ferguson, like that, he also wanted his players to play to their strengths. So a lot of these roles like that, there was a lot of room for interpretation for these players, and it was something he did when he scouted players, find strengths that can bring something new into these roles, bring something new to the club, and help this team take the step forward. Ferguson knew to delegate, to cede control of certain elements of training as he progressed through his career for new ideas, new assistant managers who'd come in. And some of these assistant managers had a pathway. They would come in as a young coach. They would then, begin potentially as the manager of an underage team, progress up to eventually becoming his assistant manager. So that way the philosophy developed with these players as they came through. The reserve manager would become his assistant manager in the final step. These young coaches could develop their own philosophies and visions, could develop them with players at the club. And as we always see with Sir Alex Ferguson, youth development again played a particular part in his successes. He modernised youth development at the club at Manchester United as he went through. He built a sense of loyalty, of stability and consistency at the club, because this club was a club that could develop talent, a club that could rebuild from within as well as from bringing in new ideas and new um you know as we see in that final stage where it evolves, so it's new ideas and it's new roles, new strengths, new identities that he did not necessarily have at the club. The one other thing Ferguson knew was identifying the veterans within a squad and knowing, are these leadership players, players who will stay with me till the end, players who will have a role in developing and reinforcing the culture of being a Sir Alex Ferguson player, already sellable. These players that I could let go at a certain age, move on, and bring someone else in to replace them. And as we know, he seemed to have a knack many times of just selling players just at the right time, seeding that, quality, knowing that player was moving on, but trusting in his own recruitment and development processes that he could solve and answer these from within. And having scouting targets that would look for players, experienced players like Van Persie, 30 and over, players kind of within that 22 to 30 bracket who could come in, like Varane, come in, make an impact, and then be sold on in a couple of years. Or like that players under 22, like Cristiano Ronaldo, would come in at a gradual evolution and become a prominent role player, a prominent role in the squad. Wayne Rooney the same. Ferguson knew what he needed, where he needed, and what category. And I suppose for us, when we go into scouting, we have these recruitment focuses now. That could be something we do. Focus on players over 30. Can they fill an immediate need that's opened up with my squad? Players in the 22 to 30 bracket. Is it someone I can come in for a couple of years and then move on and hopefully develop for a profit? Or are these players under 22, these exciting young players that I'm going to give the chance to come in and make a big impact in my squad? Because nonetheless, when it comes to Football Manager, when it comes to any of these games, and when it comes from Football Manager 24 to 25, where change is going to be the biggest, you can control that change. You can control the change in game and from edition to edition by accepting it and seeing it as a new challenge and trying to find a solution to those challenges. Now, just before I say goodbye, of course, I want to say a massive thank you for taking the time to listen or watch along with the podcast. I really appreciate your support. It's great to be back, and I can't wait to be talking to you again with another episode this week, because let's be honest, you're well and truly entitled to having another episode from me, and hopefully another one that you enjoyed if you enjoyed this one. So this wraps up this Sir Alex Ferguson Philosophy 5 episode. Let me know how you get on. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the podcast. Don't forget to, if you're subscribed on YouTube, hitting the notification bell, checking out the tactical evolutions, and of course, leave a comment, leave a review, all these things. It'll help the podcast grow. And the big thing is we want to get the growth building and building and building again, just like you've done an excellent job of helping me do from when it started way back when, and now as we go into FM25 and hopefully beyond. But look, we'll leave it there for today. Thanks so much for taking the time out to listen. I've been Gaffer Graemo, and I'll talk to you again real soon.